right, Joe's bored. I'm Joe. This the show. It is Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2025. On the day I hit record, and we finally got it. You hear that, folks? You see that? We finally got our NCAA bracket to fill out. What a conference tournament week and weekend it was. I hope everybody had a fun, safe, and responsible St. Patrick's Day. Happy first day of spring when you're hearing this on Tuesday. And let's get ready to fill out this bracket. But first, this episode is brought to you by our guy, Jake from Progressive. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go to Progressive Chrysler Jeep Dodge and Ram in Massillon, Ohio. Ask for Jake. Jake will get you in something that is right for you. All right, folks. You see this? See that? Hear that? That's a pen. We fill this bad boy out in pen. One last little slancha. And I've been waiting a long time for this one. Let's finally fill this bracket out. I'm going to move this microphone just a little bit. Alrighty. We'll start with the number one overall seed. The Auburn Tigers against... God, that creaky chair. Let me move. Alright. We'll move this that way. We'll go like this. Alright. The Auburn Tigers versus the winner of Alabama State and St. Francis. Not going to matter. Number one overall seed, Auburn Tigers. We're going to put the Auburn Tigers through to the next round here. Alright. Louisville and Creighton, man. Now, this one, let me check and see if I should have known this. I should have looked at this before I started recording. Let me see if I put in any bets yesterday while looking at the early spreads. I probably took Creighton to win if I had to guess. I did. All right. Well, that tells me everything I need to know. I guess I'm going Creighton, folks. Creighton versus Auburn in the next round. I mean, being the game is played in Lexington, Kentucky, it's a short drive for Louisville. I don't think it's going to matter. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner and Steve Ashworth's going to be a problem, at least for Louisville. Both teams did play a tough tournament. A tough conference tournament. No, we're going Creighton. We're going Creighton there. Michigan against UC San Diego. Now, from what I've heard from the experts, UC San Diego is a prime time upset spot here. But I don't know, man. I love the story of the Tritons, but I think Michigan pulls this game out. Michigan has figured it out a little bit. Won the Big Ten tournament, getting disrespected with a 5 seed. And another team in an upset spot, Texas A&M versus Yale, underneath them in the next game. A&M has really shat the bed lately. They've shat the bed all month. They didn't look good in the SEC tournament. Yale has been the team everybody's been saying could make it to the Sweet 16, but I've watched this Yale. You know what? I'll go A&M. I'll go A&M. We're gonna go A&M here. We're gonna go A&M here. I just don't think this Yale team is that good. Ole Miss and the winner of San Diego State, North Carolina. Now, I'm sure you probably heard the discrepancy of North Carolina. Why they shouldn't be there. Can Ole Miss just hoop, though? Do I think North Carolina is going to beat San Diego State in the first 4? I do. Just because this San Diego State team, as I've said, is not the San Diego State teams you're used to seeing in the tournament. Do I think they can beat Ole Miss? Ole Miss probably just shoots them out the gym. We'll go Ole Miss. We'll take Ole Miss here. Iowa State against Lipscomb, and Iowa State said that one of their top players isn't going to be playing. I really haven't liked Iowa State either, bro. I really haven't. We'll take Lipscomb in the upset here. We're going to take Lipscomb in the upset. I think this is, you got to look for one of those that nobody's looking for, even the experts aren't going to be seeing. I'm going to take Lipscomb over Iowa State. Marquette against New Mexico, just because New Mexico didn't make it far in their conference tournament, and Marquette has the least amount of travel in this game. And as much as it pains me to say it, I'm going to take Marquette here. I think Cam Jones is going to be too much alone. On top of Joplin showing up for the Golden Eagles. So we're going to take Marquette there. And Michigan State against Bryant, I think that's an easy spot. Spartans make it on to the next round where we get a very, very good matchup in Marquette against Michigan State. That is one to look out for. All right, now where do we move on? Do I want to keep moving on in the South region and get to the Final Four, or do I finish filling out the first round? Let's jump to the other side. Let's finish the first round. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go round by round. So we'll jump over to Duke's side of the bracket in the East Regional. That was the South Regional. I've probably done a terrible job of hosting this episode, but I've just been so eager to fill out this bracket, bro, that we're doing it. So we got Duke with probably no Cooper Flag the first two rounds. I don't think it matters who they're playing. I think personally they'll end up playing American, and we're going to go Duke. And let's see here. Mississippi State against Baylor. Yuck. Yuck. This is the game that you throw on the television, and if you have kids, you point to it and say yucky. Yucky. Yucky game. Yucky game. Oh, man. Does Mississippi State actually show up? No, they don't. I'm going Baylor. I know the Big 12 ain't been the Big 12 this year, but I think something tells me that when I see the name Mississippi State, I can't help but think ugh, because they've done nothing exciting all year. So we'll take Baylor in that spot. Next game, Oregon against Liberty. I'm trying not to overthink some of these because there are spots where things can happen. But Oregon, if Oregon gets hot, it's one of those. If you just start playing good basketball right now, it doesn't matter really how you played all season. Anybody can go on a run, and Oregon is one of those. If they get hot, they're like Florida that can just shoot you out the gym. So we'll take Oregon over Liberty, and we've got Arizona against Akron. Sorry, Zips. Arizona takes you down. You had a hard time with Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship. Had to come back from a ridiculous amount of points. It was 17, I believe it was. And, you fucked me on Saturday. So we're going to take Arizona here. Down with the Zips. I'm a Kent State guy anyway. Go Flashes. BYU over VCU. BYU, I said before, is one of my dark horses to make the Final Four. We'll see if that holds true. I should preface that too. I've only really looked at this when it came out. I watched Selection Sunday, saw the bracket get printed out, and then just kind of put it away because I didn't want to go through, overanalyze it. I just wanted to let everything settle, let the dust settle of conference tournament weekend, and really figure out what I want to do here. Just fill the bracket out without. Only thing I've really listened to today is part of my take. I didn't even get to the John Rothstein interview, so I really have no real sort of bias from outside because I would put myself up there as one of the top college hoops watchers. I would at least be top 25 when it comes to hours spent watching college hoops. So We'll take BYU there in that spot. That's why I need to start finishing thoughts, folks. That's why I need to start getting other people on here so they hold me to finishing thoughts. Um, that is why I feel like I do not need to listen to outer like experts about when it comes to filling out the bracket because I've watched the same ball that they've watched, and I think I know ball better than some of these stooges that get paid to talk about it as their livelihood. So, yeah, I'm hating. Fuck you. Wisconsin against Montana. They really fucked Wisconsin with going to Denver and then having to play a team that's used to altitude. Something in me is telling me that this is a spot just like Lipscomb over Iowa State. Nobody would be expecting Wisconsin to lose here. But I am. We're taking Montana. It's in Penn. Just like the Lipscomb gut, the Montana gut is telling me Wisconsin's just going to come out flat. And nothing's going to go right. They're going to look jet lagged. That's what my brain says. But Wisconsin could shoot them out the gym. But who knows? So it's March. It's March. It's when the unexpected should be expected, but people still don't expect it. But I'm going to try to expect it. All right, here we go. Next game. St. Mary's against Vandy. Oh, man. We'll take St. Mary. We'll take the Gales here. St. Mary is going to move on. Randy Bennett's squad is going to go ahead and get a first round victory. Alabama against Robert Morris. As much as I think they're fraudulent, they can at least win a round one game. And we're going to take the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's jump over. That's it for the first round of the East Regional. Let's jump down to the West Regional, where Florida, the number one seed in this region, where I think Florida, after watching them in the conference tournament, I guess it holds no weight when it comes to this shit. I mean, Auburn's been looked like the best team in the country all year, and they rightfully do deserve the number one overall seed, but I think Florida should be the number one overall seed if we're just talking about the eye test. I think Florida passes the eye test more than Auburn does because Auburn's been playing really bad basketball as of late. So, that being said, number one overall seed in the West Regional is the Florida Gators. They will beat Norfolk State. They will definitely take care of them. The Gators just score. I think I said that before. They just score, and score some more. Next game, UConn against Oklahoma. Now, those of you that know that the UConn Huskies hold a special place in my heart. UConn Husky basketball. This is a bad spot for them. But I think they can beat Oklahoma. I think they can beat Oklahoma. I thought about it. If you're watching on YouTube, you saw it. And if you're listening, you heard that long pause. But I think UConn can beat Oklahoma. I'm not going to say they should because nothing about this UConn team has screamed should win. They're not these teams from the past 2 years. They're definitely not last year's team. Yeah, they should win that one. Memphis against Colorado State. Here's one everybody's telling you Colorado State should beat Memphis. I guess Memphis is going to be without one of their key guys. Now, even though I did say I watch a lot of ball, when you watch a lot of ball, you can't be everywhere. So, I'll listen to what I've heard here. I'll take Colorado State. I guess Colorado State is very, very good. And the number would suggest on the spread wherever you're getting it. So we'll take Colorado State here. Oh, baby. Just out of principle for what happened this weekend in this next game, I'm taking Grand Canyon over the Maryland Terrapins because all they have is the Crab Five. They're not very deep, and if Grand Canyon gets hot from behind the arc, Grand Canyon is going to beat the hell out of you. So we're going to go Lopes into the next round. I think back-to-back years. If my memory serves me correctly, the Lopes went ahead and went to the round of 32 last season. Fact check me. Next game, Missouri against our Drake Bulldogs. Bad spot for our Drake Bulldogs. Bad spot for our Drake Bulldogs. And I haven't been impressed with how they've played lately. And they're going to try to slow it down. I bet Drake. So out of principle, I'm taking Drake. But I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I actually fucking hate this pick. But because I've already put some Scarol on it, we're going to take the Drake Bulldogs. Write that motherfucker in real quick. Texas Tech against UNCW. Fuck me if I remember what that initial stands for. Probably University of North Carolina, Wilmington? Yes, University of North Carolina, Wilmington. That should be right. For the podcast listeners, I'm sorry for the pauses. I am drinking a Guinness as I'm filling this out. As I said, it's still St. Patrick's Day. Slancha and Bra. But yes, we'll go Red Raiders here. Texas Tech. Texas Tech against Drake in the next round. Next game. Kansas against Arkansas. Now, because of the game that's after it, we'll do the game after it before we touch this one. St. John's versus Omaha. I gotta go with my Johnnies. Let's go Johnnies. St. John's moving on to the round of 32. And now that brings us to Kansas versus Arkansas, where you have John Calipari coaching the Arkansas Razorbacks. No matter how many times I say that out loud, I'll never be able to get used to it because what the hell is Coach Cal doing in Fayetteville, Arkansas? And Bill Self, who has lost control of this Kansas team. Everybody would want to see Calipari versus Rick Pitino in a tournament game. That's what everybody would want to see. And nothing about this Kansas team tells you, just like UConn, that they should win a game. Can they win this game? Sure. My gambler's brain will never forget how badly South Carolina beat the dog shit out of them a couple weeks ago. The Arkansas Razorbacks. And as much as I fucking hate it, I'm taking the Kansas Jayhawks. As much as I fucking hate it. As much as I fucking hate it. So that's it for the West Regional first round. On to the Midwest. The last region. Houston against SIUE. Even without a top player for Houston. And that's going to hurt Kelvin Sampson's squad. We'll take the Cougars to win their first round matchup. But if I had to pick a 1 seed that could get toppled this year, it would be them. But I just don't see it happening this year. And we'll take the Cougars to move on. Gonzaga against Georgia. Gonzaga's really figured out how to play ball together. We'll take the Zags in this spot over the Georgia Bulldogs, who, I'm not going to lie, haven't watched a lot of SEC basketball. Hand up. Don't know how the Georgia Bulldogs are here. I was fucking shocked when I saw that. Clemson against McNeese. Everything would tell you Clemson here, but I haven't been impressed with the way Clemson has played. I'm going McNeese. And I believe that's Will Wade's squad getting that 12 over 5. How many 12s have I taken? McNeese. I've taken Oregon, who's a 5. I've taken Michigan, who's a 5. And Colorado State. So I'm 50-50 on 12s. Two of my last two have been 12s. McNeese over Clemson, just because I hate how Clemson has been playing. They got early exited out of the tournament. Here's my favorite upset, and it's everybody's favorite upset, but I hate them so much. This was an easy write-in for me. I don't care if rumors are that they didn't like the draw. I'm taking High Point over Purdue. I'm taking High Point over Purdue. My favorite upset. I can't wait to watch fucking Painter go home early again with that fucking dumb look on his fucking face. And it'll just, watching Purdue go home will make my fucking day. Then we've got Illinois against the winner of Texas and Xavier. All right. Here's where shit starts to get interesting, folks. Not only do I have the Xavier Musketeers, who rightfully deserve to be in this tournament, beating the Texas Longhorns, I have the Xavier Musketeers marching right along to the second round of this here tournament over Illinois, who's going to have a horrible day shooting the basketball, and they won't have an answer for Zach Freemantle. Xavier is going to be able to take it to the round of 32. And, oh, man, this is another one. One of those you're not expecting it. I think Kentucky's going to play. They're going to be flat, and they're going to shit the bed. And Troy's going to win this game. Again, one of those, it's in the gut. I'm feeling it. Something's telling me Troy wins that game. Just Kentucky's going to play flat. Something's going to not be right. I don't know why. Now UCLA has got to go on the East Coast, where they haven't played well in East Coast time zones, against Utah State. Yeah, I know. I'll take UCLA. I'll take UCLA. I think they'll be able to get at least one out here. And then the final game of the first round is Tennessee. I don't know what the times are, I'm saying as I fill this out. Tennessee against Wofford. Once upon a time, Wofford was an easy ride-in. Tennessee scores a lot. They're going to be pissed off at how the Florida game went. We're going to go Volunteers to end this first round. Jesus. All right. Just so for camera purposes, we are filled out right there. All right. On to the second round. To make it to the Sweet 16. Back to the top. Auburn against Creighton. Folks, this is where your number one overall seed goes down. Creighton takes them down because March. Michigan against Texas A&M. The Wolverines are headed to the Sweet 16. Michigan. Ole Miss easily handles Lipscomb to make it to the Sweet 16. Ooh. I think Michigan State I think Izzo's going to have him ready to rock. Takes over. And down the stretch, beats Marquette for a shot at the Sweet 16. Now to the other side. Duke with no Cooper Flag will beat this Baylor team. Duke is very good. Very, very good. And Oregon gets their Pac-12 reunion win over Arizona because that's the Arizona game where Caleb Love's going to be Caleb Love. So, our next matchup, BYU, Montana. There go the Cougars to the Sweet 16. BYU. And St. Mary's, Alabama. Alabama, you are going to the Sweet 16. You have been able to survive and make it to the next weekend. Houston and Gonzaga. This is where your next number one seed falls. Gonzaga over Houston. Because the Gonzaga has finally put it together. Houston is going to have an off night shooting. Gonzaga's going to out-rebound them. And boom. March. Probably the favorite game with the two upsets, McNeese and High Point. Folks, your Cinderella is High Point. High Point makes it to the Sweet 16. There she is, dancing her ass off right into the Sweet 16, and her name is High Point. That's your Cinderella. Xavier and Troy. Xavier could get tired, but I think a tired Xavier is better than a flat Kentucky, and they beat this Troy team to move on to the Sweet 16. The Xavier Musketeers are moving on. And finally, UCLA and Tennessee go ahead and start playing Rocky Top. The Tennessee Volunteers are headed to the Sweet 16. And I kind of went a different route than I did the last time. So our last second round, moving on to the Sweet 16, Florida and UConn. This is where Danny Hurley and his UConn Huskies' reign comes to an end as the Florida Gators move on. Colorado State and Grand Canyon. I hate to say it, Grand Canyon, but Colorado State is moving on to the Sweet 16. Drake against Texas Tech. Texas Tech is moving on to the Sweet 16. And our last game to decide the Sweet 16, Kansas and St. John's. Couldn't ask for a better matchup for the Johnnies. St. John's continues this magical season and moves on to the Sweet 16. There we go for the YouTube. We are filled out in pen. Sweet 16. Let's see there. Look at that. Look at that. All right. To move on to the Elite Eight, Creighton versus Michigan. Michigan has the answer for Ryan Kalkbrenner, and their 7-footers move on. Ole Miss and Michigan State. This is going to be, if this matchup happens, a very, very competitive basketball game. And that's where I see Ole Miss winning. Do I see that, though? Do I see that, though? I do. I said it. I'm going with my gut. I'm going with my gut. That's what came out of my mouth. That's what's going to happen. All right. Michigan and Ole Miss is your Elite Eight matchup. I know very few people, if any, have that on their bingo card. On to the East Regional to move on to the Elite Eight. Duke versus Oregon. For some reason, something tells me Duke is just going to be able to hang in there and maybe a last second heroic happens in that game where March is kind to the Blue Devils. And here I I'm going BYU over Alabama to make it to the Elite Eight to face the Duke Blue Devils. Let's jump down to how I started this. We'll go to the West. Florida versus Colorado State. The Florida Gators continue to chomp their way through anybody that tries to stand in their way. And Texas Tech versus St. John's. I think the Johnny's defense is way too much for the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And the Johnnies continue and go to the Elite Eight to face the toughest opponent they'll see all year in the Florida Gators. And in the last region, the Midwest, Gonzaga versus High Point. I know nobody has that. The Zags move on to the Elite Eight. Gonzaga, Mark Few. It's March. How does Mark Few not make it to an Elite Eight? I don't know. And then Xavier in Tennessee. The Muskies' magical March ends as Tennessee just was too much from three, and they make it to the Elite Eight to face Gonzaga. So here we go for a trip to the Final Four. Where do I want to start? I guess I got to keep with how I've been doing it. Michigan, Ole Miss. Boy, what a story it would be for either of these programs to make it to the Final Four. March is March. I can't believe I honestly I never thought I'd say this when I saw this bracket. I couldn't see this happening. I really couldn't. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I got Ole Miss in the Final Four. I got Ole Miss in the Final Four. Auburn getting upset early on by Creighton just kind of opened that up. Michigan's going to go flat, and the Rebels are moving to the Final Four. They're going to be in San Antonio. Duke and BYU. Oh, boy. I said BYU is a dark horse to make it to the Final Four. I did say that. But something is telling me Duke's going to be too much. If Cooper Flagg is healthy, and I'm going to bank on that, because I don't think you'll see him the first two rounds, BYU's March ends, and Duke is moving on. Now, the toughest game, in my opinion, for me, because I love both these teams so incredibly much. I don't think anybody can stop Florida. Florida just scores. They just know how to score. But St. John's is the best basketball team I've watched all year. Nobody's been able to hang with them when they play that pressure defense. As soon as they put those clamps on, they are unstoppable. Teams just don't know how to keep moving, keep going. This Rick Pitino coach St. John's team could go and play 8 hours of basketball straight if they needed to and not get tired. They move up and down the floor. They're starting to develop their three-point shot. I place the future. I've got 2 futures on them. With that being said, I think Florida finally meets their match defensively. Because if they miss shots, the Johnnies are going to grab it, and the Johnnies will just physically wear you down. This game has every opportunity to be a one way or the other, just like all of them. That's such a cliche thing, but this was really like, if Florida turns it on, they might run St. John's out of the gym. But something tells me, something has told me, that this Johnny's team is different. So St. John's, you're going to the Final Four. And man, I tell you what, Gonzaga, and Tennessee. Rocky Top is going to go to the Final Four. All right. Look at that. There's my Final Four. Ole Miss versus St. John's and Duke versus Tennessee. Look at that. That's actually very pretty. We'll start with the obvious because I said I put the future on. The Johnnies are going to the championship. St. John's, baby. See ya in San Antone Monday night. And who will they play? They're going to play the Duke Blue Devils in a college basketball junkie favorite. A great color matchup, great history matchup, a great all in all. It would be a beautiful national championship. St. John's versus Duke. I'm going with the Johnnies to pull it out. St. John's is your 2025 NCAA champions. They will be the ones cutting the nets down in San Antone. There it is. Take a look at it. Boom, right there. That is my 2025 bracket filled out and completed for the very first time with you all. Thanks for watching. Everybody stay safe. Go sports. Maybe I'll see you Thursday before Thursday. Maybe I won't. If I don't see you, let's have a fucking first weekend. Let's have a great weekend of the NCAA tournament. My favorite weekend of the spring. Happy spring. Go sports. Stay safe.